being a prime example and a hot button. And we're all worried about infringements of the federal government on our personal lives. And some of those are certainly justified, and some of them are taking place. And some of them are something we're just very paranoid about because they're doing these little things and we're worried about the big things. And I think we need to be planning ahead. We need to be thinking about these things that could potentially happen in the future and have a plan in action if necessary. Obviously, the sheriff is going to have to look at this from a perspective of what is going to happen. You know, one of the questions that came up at a forum before was, are you going to stop immunizations and forcing immunizations, and that's not constitutional? Well, you know, it's something that it has been brought up. It isn't a real situation yet, but it's something that we need to be prepared for and we need to look into. And as your sheriff, I will stand up for your constitutional rights. I swore an oath 3 times, Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, Columbia Falls Police Department, and Flat County Sheriff's Office, to uphold the United States Constitution, 2 of those places, the Montana State Constitution. I take those very, very seriously, and I will uphold them for you. As far as the concealed weapon, you know, I guess I got to agree with Ted Nugent. Second Amendment to your concealed weapon permit. You know, I think the current status with the open carry law and a concealed weapon, you know, it's something a lot of us already had. We just didn't really realize that we already had it. You know, it's a little alarming because most of us aren't used to seeing people openly carrying out there, and it's something new, something different. You know, if this was 130, 140 years ago, we wouldn't think anything of it. You know, personally, is it a little alarming for me? Well, it's just something I pay attention to because that's part of my training. As a citizen, is it something that I look at? But you're right. I have really no issue with it as a citizen or as a sheriff.
Dave, I made some notes. Just the very first part of that question, that's the only one I just needed briefly refreshed on.
The person in charge should be the person that was elected by the taxpayer. Do you agree?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the office of sheriff is the only elected law enforcement official, certainly in our state, and I think probably in our country. Almost every other law enforcement official is appointed. The office of sheriff is elected. I take that responsibility and would take that responsibility very seriously. So yes, I certainly do believe that the person you elect is the person that should be in charge and the person that you should have available to control the direction of your law enforcement agency, of your sheriff's office as well. As far as the rest of these questions, there were several rolled into that. I'm not a fan of bigger government. I'm a Republican. And maybe this is the one reason it's kind of nice to have partisan politics involved. I'm not a fan of bigger government. I'm not a fan of expanding government. I'm certainly not a huge fan of the way the federal government has been expanding. However, that being said, I think there are a lot of there are several federal law enforcement officers here in the room, and I certainly commend all of you for the job that you do, and law enforcement officers from the state agencies as well. I think working together as law enforcement entities and agencies is extremely important. I'm not a huge fan of federal government intrusion into our lives. I certainly pay enough taxes. Anybody here think they don't pay enough taxes? Anybody pay too little taxes? Yeah, I thought so. So no, I'm not in favor of that. Concealed carry permits, I think our laws are pretty good in the state of Montana on concealed carry permits. They're relatively easy to get. You just have to prove that you're not a hatchet murderer or really crazy. And you've had some sort of gun training, and we give you a concealed weapons permit. So that's pretty open, that's pretty liberal, and I'm certainly in favor of that. I think an armed public is a safer public, especially those, as long as it isn't all the bad guys that just have the guns.
In a community with many law enforcement agencies in different jurisdictions, how do you plan to increase effectiveness in the SO's office by working with these agencies?
Interagency cooperation, of course, is the key, and I think you're not going to hear anything different from anybody that would stand up here in front of you in this panel running for sheriff. Certainly nobody's going to get up here and say, you know, I don't work and play well with others, so you should vote for me. The key, of course, is interagency cooperation, working well. I've had the opportunity to work with every agency in the county at some point. A lot of those people are still around, and I see people here from various agencies that I've worked with. I think it's also important to note that anytime you can have any sort of consolidation of services or any sort of integration of services on joint teams, that benefits not just the citizens by a sharing of expertise, but it benefits us as taxpayers by perhaps having some administrative cost savings and spreading that expertise and that cost around amongst more people than just a small group.
It'd be nice to be able to, I can sum it up in one word, communication. If you don't have that inter-office communication with your other agencies, you have nothing. Unfortunately, you end up coveting that information, which is oftentimes what we often do in our lives. We need to understand that we are all in this together, and law enforcement as a whole wants to provide a safer community for everyone. Regardless of what color uniform or what badge you're wearing, we're all in this together, and we're all getting paid by the taxpayer, and we need to be more assertive in looking at as a community effort. And I think if we can do more in the communication lines, that's where our breakdown really falls. We don't communicate with the other agencies, they don't communicate with us. You know, a number of years ago, we had an interagency, I don't even remember the name of it, but we all got downstairs and all of our detectives got together, patrols invited, all the law enforcement agencies in Flatthead County and surrounding counties were invited to attend this. We probably had, what, 100 plus people there? Easy. It was fantastic. It was amazing. Once we broke that line of communication, we broke that trust, or lack thereof, with the information that we had, we were actually able to solve cases. I had information that was crucial to cases in Whitefish. Whitefish had information that was crucial to cases in Kalispell. Sanders County had information that helped out our drug team. If we can start getting those groups of people together again and communicate back and forth, lo and behold, it would be just absolutely amazing what we could solve. It's just like if your two-way radio doesn't work, you're not able to convey that information out there and get information conveyed to you. If we can get that communication working again, that two-way radio, it'll be amazing what we're going to be able to do for not only just our community, but everyone's community and everyone's surrounding community.
During this sheriff's term, or the previous one, are you aware of any unethical activities that the administration was involved in that never became known to the public? If so, what would you do to ensure ethical activity of all staff and provide transparency for your administration? As a moderator, I'm just going to interject here and say I think we've had plenty of past problems. I think we just need to recognize the human condition, learn from it, and what can we do to make things better in the future. So, turn it over to you.
I agree, and getting back to a point I made earlier about restoration, you know, we can sit and be negative and talk about everything that has created the problem that we're currently in right now and dwell on it and build anxiety and build stress within our own lives, and that's our own responsibility. You know, there was a note up on Whitefish Middle School's reader board. I can't take Carrie Drown is the one who came up with the statement. It said, "Have a great day, the choice is yours." I think that's a great statement, and I think it applies here because there's been some things that have taken place. Well, okay, great, they've taken place, they're done, they're over with. Let's move on. I can't fix what's taken place, but I can fix what's going to take place from this point forward. I can take place what's going to get fixed after June 8th if I'm elected. Chuck can do the same thing. So I don't want to dwell on what took place. I want to fix and make things better from here on forward. And I think if we set the tone in the office, we can do that. As effective leaders, we can do that. I know I can.